Tonight, Iran-backed Houthi rebels in the Red Sea have vowed unimaginable revenge on the US and the UK after Rishi Sunak ordered self-defence strikes on their military bases. And a top judge has slammed the British justice system, calling on the government to release older prisons from jail. And a new study has found TV adverts are more likely to use West Country accents to portray less intelligent people. Joining me on the panel tonight, Penny Smith and Geoff Norcott, and JJ Anisiobi and Isabel Oakeshott. But first, the Iran-backed Houthi rebels have vowed unimaginable revenge in the wake of British and American airstrikes on military bases in Yemen. The furious militants called the deadly blitz an act of war as a full-blown conflict threatens to erupt in the region. Royal Air Force pilots stationed in Cyprus launched a surprise overnight mission, taking out dozens of high-value targets, including a rebel army camp and an airport. Rishi Sunak has defended the action, arguing the UK needs to send a strong signal that militant attacks are wrong and cannot be carried out with impunity. Houthi fighters have been wreaking havoc on international shipping routes in the Red Sea, most recently firing missiles and killer drones at a Royal Navy warship. Earlier, Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer backed British strikes, but said Sunak's decisions should face scrutiny in the Commons.
Labour does support this operation against the Houthi rebels. It's clear that for some time now they've been carrying out attacks on shipping, commercial shipping in the Red Sea, putting civilian lives at risk as well as disrupting international trade and traffic and shipping. And so we support this action. Obviously, we need the Prime Minister to make a full statement to Parliament, but we're fully supportive of the action that's needed.
Well, meanwhile, a key NATO ally has branded the British military action disproportionate. Turkey's President Erdogan even went so far as to accuse the UK of trying to turn the Red Sea into a sea of blood. The instability is causing chaos for markets, with the Treasury fearing the UK economy could shrink as crude oil and natural gas prices soar. The car giant Tesla has been forced to suspend its European manufacturing over fears of ongoing attacks and hijackings in the Red Sea. So we have two separate but very, very connected issues there. Obviously, the issue of what's going on in the Middle East, what's going on in the Red Sea. Could us retaliating in this way make a bad situation even worse? That's what a lot of people are worried about. And then the economic impact of all of this, which, of course, we all have very fresh in our memories. What happens to supply chains when the world or an area of the world comes grinding to a halt? We know what happened in the pandemic. You see those supply chain issues. And you can see that these container ships, their insurance has gone up 10% because of the danger they're facing. They're having to reroute, which puts an extra 10 days on a 30-day route from Asia to Europe and back again. So the cost of these containers has gone up 15%. All of that will push up inflation at a time when most countries are desperately trying to bring it down. So you can see on two levels why there had to be some sort of retaliation. I think President Erdogan's reaction is entirely predictable. He's done a huge change in the last 10 years or so from trying to be Europe's darling and wanting to join the EU to turning his back on the West and particularly on Saudi, supporting not just the Palestinians, but Hamas as well. So, of course, he's going to have his comments on there and say, that what the UK and the US and other allies are doing. I
was going to say,
is
that's
disgraceful.
The thing is, you have to say about the other allies, because it always sounds like, I think a lot of people would actually forget or perhaps not know quite how many other people have supported this. It's actually 11 others, including places like Bahrain and Singapore and Australia and New Zealand and so many other countries are actually supporting this. It is not just the US and the UK as a kind of lackey of the United States. And also, I was listening to you, Isabel, talking a bit earlier on, and you were saying the point is you can only sabre rattle so long before you actually have to get the sabre out. You can't just keep on saying, we are going to do something if you carry on doing this, and then saying, we are, honestly, we are, no, we're still not, but we will. And then eventually you have to do something, because otherwise...
There's a huge cost to doing nothing.
Yeah,
and that, I think, people aren't necessarily factoring in. And it's understandable that voters, ordinary people, will be nervous about this because they don't really know what the scale of it is now. They don't know, none of us know how it might escalate, because often these sorts of conflicts are somewhat unpredictable. But we probably can't really do nothing. We shouldn't do nothing, because that will only embolden those who think that they can carry on disrupting these vital trade routes. And it has actually been a problem for a considerable amount of time now. We have actually been active trying to disrupt the Houthis. Again, it hasn't had a lot of attention, but our armed forces have been involved one way or another for a little while now. So unfortunately, what we've done may sound very dramatic, and we've talked about it successfully hitting a number of targets. I'm told by the most senior defence sources that isn't going to make that much of a difference. Frankly, they say privately it won't make any difference militarily. What we're doing is sending out a message. We're putting a marker down, and politically, that is probably better than nothing.
For me, I think this just comes down to cash. It's down to money. This war between Yemen and Saudi Arabia, it's Saudi Arabian-led coalition. The UK has made 27 billion, that's the estimate, 27 billion pounds in selling arms to Saudi Arabia, which they used to bomb the hell out of Yemen, which experts have said there have been overwhelming evidence of repeated breaches of humanitarian law. So what we're seeing, and as we are seeing now with Gaza, and people saying Israel has broken international law, we've been seeing this in Yemen for the last 7-8 years.
Except that this goes back so far. I mean,
but the Saudi-led war was from 2015, and that's where I can stop. Yeah. We can't keep going back and back and back. No. This is about cash. The Houthis are not stopping, and this is another thing that's been misrepresented in the media. They're not stopping and attacking every ship that's going through. They're stopping ships that are going to Israel. It's the big ships themselves, like Maersk and Co, have decided to stop sending their ships through. But they've been the Houthis actually only attacked the ships that are going to Israel.
No, there has been. They have said that. They have claimed that. There has been no evidence that the ships they've attacked have been Israeli. In fact, one was German, one was the Netherlands, one was in.
No. But they're heading to Israel. They're not Israeli ships. They're ships that are taking things to Israel. Well, listen, that's what they're claiming.
That's what they're claiming. It's not
true. I think Daisy's right on that.
I disagree.
I'll just say, there's also, I think, in the reaction to this, there's been a level of disingenuity about, people say, well, Rishi Sunak should have come to Parliament first. They should have cleared it all, should have had some long debate that they were there late into the night. I think there's a sort of presentism that occupies political thought at the moment. People have actually forgotten how these things operate. And if you take a limited military action, now, as Isabel says, you can argue about whether the scale of it was commensurate. But this is what happens when you're in government. I do not think giving the Houthis a little heads up as to when they should strike would have been the best way
completely
forward.
Right. And I think we've seen the utter peril of always giving Parliament a say. I mean, this was a terrible precedent that David Cameron set when he asked the Commons whether or not we should intervene after President Assad of Syria gassed his own people using chemical weapons. And guess what? He didn't get the vote through, because when you start trying to persuade everybody in Parliament that this is a good idea, you're probably not going to get the answer you want.
But is there a line like a full-scale military action? I suppose in that vote, we were talking about something of a bigger scale than this. And it's always hard who picks that point at which you do need to go to Parliament. You're talking about something like Iraq and Afghanistan. These are on different levels. But in terms of people that are potentially disrupting the global economy, when we've seen what recessions and cost of living crisis can do to people at lower end, I think there's a massive cost to doing nothing.
And also, can I just very briefly also say, for those poor people on those boats when they get hijacked, of course, and then sometimes don't see their families for years until it's sorted out.
But then we're seeing it through the eyes of the Western world. What about the Arab world that's been displaced and dissettled from Western democracies interfering? We're looking at it and saying, well, our prices are going to go up and this is going to go up and this is... What about people getting hijacked? People in Yemen have been getting bombed for at least the last 7-8 years. What about those people?
But there was the Houthis were the insurgents, weren't they?
The reason, well, as far as I know, the Saudis attacked Yemen because of the Houthis. But the
Houthis are
they are not the recognised government of Yemen.
I think JJ makes a fair point, is why do some conflicts really attract... It's the same as the post office thing. Why do we suddenly care about this thing? You're right, this conflict has claimed many lives, and it hasn't been a big deal to us to now. But with the circumstances we face now, I think Sunak did the right thing.
And just coming back to your point, Geoff, about asking Parliament, it's ridiculous, particularly given that Keir Starmer has said that the opposition would back it, are backing it. So you would be recalling Parliament to have a debate about something that you already know the vote will be won. You already know that, you know, that the votes are there for the House of Commons to say, yes, Rishi Sunak, you may go ahead and do it. So you're literally doing it to be a talking shop, to waste time when you should be, you know, it should be sort of action, not words.
They now, I think, don't they want to have a retrospective debate about whether or not they
Well,
would approve it?
and that's not actually necessarily a bad thing. I mean, I'm quite personally really interested to hear that debate. There will be some voices of experience there who may tell us all things that we didn't know, and I think that's fine. MPs are entitled to do that. After all, these are our resources. They are common taxpayer-funded resources, and I think it's right that MPs are fully informed and they are given a statement on what's happened and they're given a chance to debate it, but I don't think that it's a time to ask for a yes or no.
Can I just remind everybody as well of the Houthi slogan, God is great, death to America, death to Israel, curse on the Jews, victory to Islam.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
really,
you.
thank you.
That's not one of them. That's all of them. They have several different ones. I'm not here to defend them. I'm just saying.
I'm just
they have several different ones, and God is great is their main one, because that's what they're named after.